Good morning, and this is the presentation for my final presentation or paper for Social Work 263. This is going to be on poverty. It's based off my paper, and this is just kind of overall summary or an oral summary of the paper. So the topic of the paper and the social issue we were looking at was poverty, particularly poverty within the United States over the past couple years. And we've noticed that there has been a couple points drop in the poverty rate from like a 13% down to a 12.7 or 12.3%. So it's been a little bit of change over the coming years. In this presentation or in the paper, we looked over some of the social programs that deal with poverty, particularly with children and the elderly and some other groups of people. We find that most of the poor people in America are either of a minority group, a single parent household where it's just one parent in the household, or children. There's a lot of poor children within the United States. In the paper, we looked over some of the social programs that are in the U.S. today, like TANF and SNAP and Medicaid, Social Security, and then other private organizations that deal with poverty. Each of these play a specific role and do specific things for the poor, like TANF is temporary assistance for needy families. It helps out families get milk and other things if they have children under the age of 2. And then you have Medicaid, which provides low-income families medical care. And then you got Social Security, which provides an income for those that are of retirement age, and it gives them some sort of income within their household. So all these things were covered in the paper, and I'm just kind of giving an oral overview of those things and those programs that help the poor today. Some of the issues or values and beliefs that kind of go along with poverty, or some people view poverty as self-inflicted, that people have done it to themselves, while others see it as they need help. So there's two types of aid, usually two categories of people that people fall under. There's one that believe that we should give direct aid, financial compensation, things like that to people, and others that feel like we should give them opportunities, job opportunities, other things, but maybe not direct aid. So those are the two camps of people and kind of the mindset of where people at in this country on poverty. Um, but most people feel like in this country that those that are poor need some sort of help and are willing to give some sort of help. It just depends on what it is. And the programs we kind of discussed earlier, the four main ones that help with poverty in different areas, have been seen as effective. I know with Social Security, there's been issues because there's more coming out than going in. So they've tried to raise the retirement age. They've tried to um, change some of the credentials. If you have a higher wage, you may have put in, but you may not receive out those benefits because you already are taken care of. Um, TANF has strict social restrictions. You have to be at a certain income level. You have to have a certain age. The child has to be a certain age, and you can only receive it like twice within a period. So they also have restrictions. And then Medicaid, some of the issues we found with Medicaid is that some doctors don't have to accept Medicaid, which can be a problem. And it's also, as mentioned in the paper, all these social programs that the United States pours into cost about $2.5 trillion a year, which is a large financial, you know, uh, thing to invest in. So that's kind of the financial piece and some of the problems that lie um, within the program. But in regards to race, ethnicity, gender, anything like that, when we see in the poverty levels is that um, there is more poverty within minority groups and also those of Caucasian descent that live in rural areas. They kind of struggle with poverty. And the reasons are because it could be just generational poverty, that's what they've been stuck into, or they don't have access to higher education because it's so expensive. Um, things like that have been keeping people with job opportunities, low minimum wage. So some of the policies that are in place now are like raising the minimum wage, um, promoting more trade schools, giving free college. Things like this are on the table so that people in poverty can come out of it. So that's kind of just the general overview of the paper, getting into more deeper issues when it comes to the presentation or the paper, we see that there has been, excuse me, look over my notes. We also come back to the idea of worthy poor and unworthy poor. So we've kind of defined within our own society and culture what worthy poor is. It's those that are disabled, the elderly, dependent children, single mothers, things like that. These are what most of these programs are geared towards, while others may not receive those benefits. But overall, some of these issues in poverty come from, rises in cost of healthcare and things like that, social issues, not being able to get in college. There's also been discrimination, perhaps, especially with incarceration and not being able to find jobs after that. So these are some of the social issues that come along with poverty, especially in the United States, and what we as a country are doing to fix those things. So that's kind of the general overview of what my paper was about, following the critical model for social welfare policy analysis. It kind of goes through each of these questions and just looks at briefly of this issue, which has spanned across several cultures and civilizations of poverty, and what the United States is doing and has already done to address these sort of issues within our nation. So that's kind of general overview of poverty in the United States, some of the programs that we have, and then kind of the two camps of people and what they think we should do. So this is just the kind of the general overview of the paper and poverty in general within the United States.